All right, I'll offer it. Welcome, open beer.
Drink beer.
My
You
nose.
know I'm gonna spill this on my MacBook. Right? You know I'm gonna spill it on my MacBook.
Hey, out there to everybody joining us. We're going to give people a little bit of a chance to tune in here, press play, and see a little bit of what are some of the things we want to walk through here today. And I'm going to see how quickly I can drink this, and then we'll be in good shape.
Let's give it a minute or two.
Yeah. But I can say what's exciting for us, where we're located here in Utica, New York. We went out this weekend and snagged some cans and crawlers and growlers from all our local breweries, which is about 9 within 25 minutes or so. So if you're saying, are they going to try and drink all these in 30 minutes? Yes.
I had the day off yesterday. I drove up to Lake Placid, which is about 2 hours and 45 minutes from us. And then when I got home, I started watching Miracle because you have to, right? Is that like,
Naturally.
you got to do that. You got to do that. But that was some good beer.
Nice. All right, I think we can start digging in here. First off, I just want to thank Andrew and the Craft Beer Professionals Facebook group. One, not just for putting on this virtual show. It's actually been a great couple days listening to industry professionals, both kind of in our lane and also just across the industry in general. Both big fans of the brewing industry, so it's really great insight to hear what people have to say. And also thanks for the opportunity for us to kind of speak and talk a little bit about the season that's coming up and ways that digital can be a tool to kind of help maximize things for you. So you can see sort of a quick look on some of the things we want to run down, and our names and some pictures of us and enjoying some beers. But as a kind of kickstart of what it is when we sort of were thinking about, well, what do we want to talk about? We really realized, you've heard these words 1,000 times. I'll try and say them once, but the pivots, the hybrids, the shifts, the new normals, and everything that breweries, in particular, had to deal with over the last 7-8 months. There was a lot of being reactive and not so proactive, and obviously one of the big things that was lost was foot traffic and people coming in and having an opportunity to visit you. And you really don't know where things are going to go over these next couple months when you usually gear up for a lot of foot traffic of people traveling and families coming in and and tours and just big kind of celebratory drinking days, and those might not be there like they once were. And so prior to my time joining Sightseeker, I actually worked in and ultimately ran the gift shop at a brewery here in Utica, the Saranac Brewery. And so I was saying to Andrew before, if I can teach lessons based on my own mistake of saying I'll just deal with it the day before Thanksgiving, then I will happily teach that lesson. So we wanted to talk about a couple things of why it's really important to utilize this time, especially in this industry that you are in, to focus on using digital marketing to support your e-commerce. And really hit it hard as you get into the holiday season and prepping for 2021, because a clean e-commerce platform now is going to be huge for you over the next couple of weeks and months, and then you can only succeed further than that once you get into next year.
We both have two big takeaways that we like to emphasize during our talks like this. Devon's is being as proactive as possible. I know we're already in the month of October, so you certainly need to be thinking about the holiday season now, which is why we wanted to make it the focus for this event here. And it's probably the most important thing that you can do is be proactive, so that way you have a plan in place and you can be more mindful of your costs, your budget, and the efficiency as it relates to your human resources, your technological resources. My big takeaway is always making sure you don't bite off more than you can chew. There's so many tactics out there as in terms of marketing and what you can do to promote your product and to promote your merchandise. But we know that every business out there, especially the brewing industry, is really strapped on time. It's the number one complaint amongst marketing teams or small business owners is there's not enough time in the day, and that's even adding in budget as a popular complaint. But time is the biggest complaint, something that is you never have enough of. So knowing that, we've selected what we feel are the 6 most important tactics to drive business and to drive traffic to your e-commerce system to increase the sales of your merchandise.
Yeah, and I'll say now, and I'll mention it again at the end, once we wrap this up, and please, if you have any questions as we're going through, feel free to ask, and we'll address them. But I'm going to share right in the Facebook group. We kind of put a one-pager sort of summary of each of these things we're going to talk about, so that you can go back and you can say, am I in a good place? Am I prepared? Am I planned? So I'm going to stop sharing this so you can see a nice big version of me.
We'd rather you see us than words on the screen.
So if you saw, the first thing that we had in there, and it really is where we're going to start this out, was coupons. And there's a word I'm going to repeat a lot, and it's plan. And it's really crucial, and it's really one of the most important things as we get into this time of the year, is to plan things out. And it's going to trickle down across everything that we're talking about. But if you take that time now and really sit down and plan out what the next couple of months are going to look like for you, then you're going to be in great shape. That it to a degree can almost be automated. And that's going to be huge. And it just takes that one thing, that weight off your shoulders down the road a little bit. So when I say coupons, I'm talking about a lot of things. And it really is going to be on a case-by-case basis, looking at your business model, your inventory, your merchandise, the way that you kind of operate right now, and say, what type of promotion can I do? Where can I optimize our business for our customers? So a simple one, free shipping. You can do threshold-based ones, $10 off, $50 or more, and these aren't new ideas, but the idea is to say, what ones are we comfortable doing, and then how do we kind of plot those out? You don't want to say now we'll offer free shipping from October 7th through January 20, something like that, because there's no urgency. No one's going to say, oh, I got to do this. I got to really dig into that. So look at the different things you can do. And if it is, these 2 days, we're doing free shipping. These 2 days, we're going to give a pint glass with a $50 purchase. This day, we're going to throw in a t-shirt with a, $100 order, and things like that. Because now, as we get into these other items we're going to talk about, you want to leverage that information. You want to leverage that idea. And so it's really the first step is saying, what is it that I'm comfortable doing from my business standpoint, and then kind of moving it out. I had said to Tom before, from when I had worked in retail, there was a promo that I did over Black Friday weekend where we had a ton of surplus t-shirts. Not, ones, not the nicest ones. They were black shirts and they had a red logo on it. But what we said is, these are low price point shirts. Let's really drive a lot of urgency. So we said with every $50 order, we'd give away a shirt. So if you spent $200, you got 4 shirts. You spent $500, you got 10 shirts. And we had a line at the door of people who were like, man, I can get 2 big gifts for 2 people that are really important to me, and then I can get stocking stuffers and a bunch of other things to fill in the gaps. And so again, that was for me. Look at what you have, look at your approach, and then say, what are the things that I can do? Because that's going to be step 1 to then saying, now how do I notify the world digitally?
So when we talk content marketing and what you're actually going to say across social media or email marketing or other avenues that you have at your disposal, your channels, the offers, the coupons that you come up with shouldn't be the end all be all of your content marketing plan and your messaging. But leading into the holiday season, it certainly is the biggest driver of attention and enthusiasm, and it's going to be the main hook, the main magnet. So you have to give priority, and you have to start there when you're planning your holiday program, your holiday plan out, because that's really what's going to be the next drivers of change and drivers of traffic into your site and into your e-commerce platform. So you got to identify what those offers are, what those discounts are. And as far as applying it, like actually executing it and making it happen, you really have 4 different areas that you can make that happen. You got to take a look at what your POS system is, inside of your brewery, and how you're actually carrying out transactions. You can possibly develop your coupons directly inside of that POS and produce those digitally from there. You can go to a third-party website that's specifically meant for digital couponing. You can do a custom app if you happen to have a custom app, or work with an in-house or external developer to make that happen. Or you can go through your e-commerce system, which seems to be the most popular way of doing it, because it doesn't take a lot of time. The systems are super intuitive, and it's much easier to carry out, and that it's going to pair directly with the e-commerce system itself, since that's where you're building it. So you can apply those coupon codes, and you can really get creative with how you develop those discounts, those coupons, and you can do some testing, A/B testing, to see which one resonates best with your audience.
Yeah, and to that, one of the things that was just, again, it went back to, it was just so big for me from being, okay, that's one less thing to worry about in the moment, is I planned out what they were going to be, and I used the tool. In our case, it was WooCommerce, and I made banners that were scheduled, that had the promos on them, and I scheduled out the coupon codes themselves. And there was like 12 days of deals, and at midnight one went live and the banner went up, and at midnight it went off and the next one went up. And so I had those deals that were in place.
That efficiency can only be created, though, if you have the plan in place from the get-go, or else it's going to take you just as much time, if not longer, to think every morning about what I want to do today.
Catching up,
because it has the automated abilities inside of the tool.
And so that's why we kind of start there. That's what we call the ground level. So that's going to be the biggest question from a business aspect of what can I do? How can I optimize? What can I give to a degree? And then from there, it's saying, okay, this is what I'm comfortable doing. Here's some variations of it. Here's things people will get excited about. And then from there, it's now how do I tell people? How do I get people to know? So the first thing that we looked at, because they have stormed back heavily in the last 6-7 months, was QR codes. And for those that are out there whose breweries do, have a restaurant and had to go in the direction of contactless menus, you probably know QR codes. You probably printed coasters with QR codes, and and have them taped and stapled and glued to your tables, and it's pushing people to a menu. And so you already know a little bit of the power and the ease of a QR code. Most cameras now, you just open the camera app on your phone and it'll automatically scan it and open it up for you. So the question is, how do I also use that to push people into my store, or to showcase those coupons and those deals that we have? And so part of that can be to those who are on premise. If someone's, can you work it onto your receipt when they're leaving? Is there something that you can give people as they leave that later they'll be like, oh, this says, there's a deal for me, or there's something that I can find out, and you can link it just like any type of custom redirect directly to a product or directly to the page you want to drive them to. But there's that question of how can I leverage this QR code to generate that excitement in that business for me.
Yeah, I like how they came back and people are excited about them again. When they first came out, whatever it was, 7-8 years ago, they really failed miserably. A lot of people were excited about them, especially in the marketing community, but it was not well received among consumers because you needed a third-party scanning app to make that happen. So the average everyday user who's not kind of like into technology, that's not reading like Mashable and TechCrunch at the time, which were the most popular platforms out there for taking in the most trending technologies, they weren't downloading Red Laser or those other applications. Now the phones have become so sophisticated where that's built into the camera. It's now easy. You can just explain, hey, pull out your camera and scan this, and you're going to go to the site. But what I do mind is when people are just sending you to the homepage. And I mean, obviously, if you're sending it to the menu, like that makes sense because you need to view the menu there, the tap menu or the restaurant menu. But if you're excited about using QR codes and all it's doing is go to the menu, just use your domain. Like, it's not that difficult to type in your domain into the browser. You should be using QR codes in a more creative way to send them, to give them a reason to scan and to bring them to a certain page on the site. And again, it goes back to having some sort of offer, discount, or promotion that you're running that motivates them to scan and go to that page and tie it to the e-commerce system so you can use it as a traffic driver to bring them into the e-commerce store and to make that transaction right then and there while it's still top of mind and while it's still something that they're thinking about.
Yeah, and one of the things here that's very important for Tom and I, and we say it all the time, is the importance and the reliance on data. We're very analytical. I actually know that there's been presentations during the conference that were, you have data, now what do you do with it? And I agree, like, and it's the best insight you can get into what works, what doesn't, and start moving in the direction of why. Why did it work? And the way to get there is to start collecting data. And so be it coupons, be it codes, be it QR codes if you have unique ones, be it approaches. Let's say I'm going to do this type of tracked QR code for this initiative and a different one for this initiative. The goal is the same. They buy a hoodie because we have this deal going on, but let's see which one, now that we can segment and track them, which one works better. And that's why it's really, really important, all these initiatives, to say, fingers crossed, everything is going to be successful and you've got a great next couple of months going on. But if afterward you can step back and say, now what really worked? And then, I was surprised that worked. How do I dig into it? How do I learn a little bit more? How do I use that as we kind of move forward? So it's constantly evolving, constantly.
If you're doing A/B testing, if you're comparing which QR codes and essentially what promos, coupons, or discounts are more successful, don't just have the QR code be different. Obviously, it needs to be a distinct code so you can track it distinctly. But play around with the copywriting, play around with the messaging and how you're actually promoting it, and see what offer actually resonates most and drives the most type of redeems or redemption.
Yeah, and that's, from there, I think, is actually a perfect way to kind of move into our next topic, which was email marketing. I'm big on email marketing. It's one of my specialties. It's one of the things that I focus on here. And like many of you, I too get annoyed by bad email marketing. It's a spam email address, but I'll look at sometimes, especially right now in October, and I'll see like the Halloween stores. Oh my God, Spirit Halloween, probably 60 emails a day, I feel like sometimes. And but it's interesting to kind of see, like, this wouldn't be the way I would do it. Now, email marketing done well is your biggest tool, and it kind of starting at the top where we were talking about coupons and talking about a plan. Let email marketing kind of be that driver. And I'll give you an example. If you've got a good email marketing tool, if you've got a tool that you can, again, schedule, if you've got an email list and you can schedule emails out, and you're going to have these coupons. We talked about scheduling discount codes on the site and things like that. Schedule an email to tell people, hey, today only, we have this deal. And it's creating that urgency of, I need to jump on, I need to do this. Or if you're not as, if you don't want to send a daily email, if you're having deals on multiple days, send 2 in the week and say, hey, this week we're going to run a promo every day, but it's going to be different. So you have to come to our site to see what it is, to take advantage of it. And so now that goes out. And so if I receive that, I'll say, okay, all right, I'll make a point. I've got a mental note. I need to start planning ahead and get some gifts. And then I'll go in and say, oh, you know what, that deal doesn't do a lot for me. But the next day, oh, this one hits it. Or you can then just do an update. Hey, we're halfway through, whatever the name of your promo or your specials are. Did you take advantage yet? Today's deal is this. And it just kind of, I wouldn't necessarily tell everybody this is what we have every day, because then they're going to make that decision. Oh, Thursday's the day that's important to me. And then maybe they'll forget about it. But if you're creating that need where they go on and they're like, oh, if this deal's not there, I'm going to do it, and that's really what's going to kind of drive people in there. And that's why one of the important things, depending on if you've got an email list, if you've got a tool that you can use, and if you can segment it. So that's big for us. If you can split your list up and do that extra little bit of planning, now you could say, all right, the people on this list might be more interested in this. Maybe it's locations based. Maybe depending on what state you're in, you can ship beer in state, you can't ship beer out of state. So maybe you want to do a promo where you're talking about, you've got a basket and it's got full crowlers in it, and it's got a shirt and it's got some glassware, and you want to push that out as a party in a box, but you can only do it in state. Don't send it to your full list, send it to the state list. Mm-hmm. Or maybe somebody's interested in this particular product and you just came out with a hoodie that's got the label from that product. push it out to the people you know interested in that. Utilize your list segmentation so that you're not overwhelming everybody with emails, but you're sending a really low funnel ideal one.
There's a lot of tools out there. We work with a variety of different types of partners here. Small and medium-sized businesses typically use MailChimp and Constant Contact. Those are the market-leading software when it comes to SMBs. HubSpot is a very good tool. Salesforce Pardot for the larger operations, a lot of sophistication in those type of tools. But you don't necessarily need one with a ton of bells and whistles. If you have that plan in place of what you want to say, you have somebody on staff or an external partner or freelancer or agency that can help you build those emails. You just got to make sure you queue those up to the right people and that they're creative. You have to pay attention to subject lines. That is the biggest driver of what warrants people opening the email or immediately deleting the email. Excuse me. So really take time to get creative with what those subject lines say, because that can make or break your campaigns. And then get creative with what the email itself is saying and how it looks. Video can't be put inside of an email. You can drive people from the email to a video, which is good, but take time to possibly convert those videos into animated GIFs, which will play in an HTML email format. And it's very eye-catching, and it gets a lot of engagement when you can insert an animated GIF and get creative with what those promos, discounts are that you're portraying and putting inside of those emails, because that can lead people to the click, which is the ultimate goal of the email, get them to a destination, which in this case is going to be your online store. But we're big believers in email, and what turns a lot of people off from email marketing, I think, is that they may have a small list, regardless if it's segmented or not, and they just see it as a way to continually talk to the same folks, which, depending on how often you're sending emails, that can be an okay strategy, but it's very, very important to continually grow and nurture that list. You have to be building and adding more names into the list. You guys are blessed. You guys are lucky because you're B2C. People are excited about beer and excited about your brand. So it's going to be a little bit easier for you to build up your fan base, to build up your email subscribe base, compared to some of the B2B companies that we tend to work with here at SiteSeeker. Take advantage of contests, giveaways, and offers. Anytime you have a form, whether it's transactional or whether it's just something that they're signing up for, events possibly, or in the past, or upcoming, after we get through some of the stuff, always make sure that you have an opt-in button, so that way they're acknowledging that they want to be communicated to and emailed to later on. That'll make it so you're always in the clear in the future from a legal standpoint with can spam laws, but they're acknowledging, they're psychologically telling you, hey, I'm okay with you emailing me in the future. They're going to be more receptive of those emails that you're sending. That's going to be a much more healthy list, and you're going to still be able to grow that with some of those tactics. And the more that you add into it, as long as they're relevant and you have it segmented, you can get really good responses from an open, a click, and hopefully a transaction standpoint.
Yeah, and one of the things you said that's actually huge, and that I just want to hit too, is subject lines. We see a number of times where what should be the first paragraph is intended to be the subject line, where it's like, hey, hope you're having a great day, here's some deal. It's going to be cut off, and it's just going to get deleted. And so it's one of those things where you really do have to look at it and say, will I open this email? Probably, probably, or probably not, with an unbiased eyes. But that's really the importance of then kind of getting into that A/B testing and saying, all right, I'm going to split this email into two, and I'm going to send one out with a very traditional, deals from our brewery today, and then the next one is, if you don't open this in 5 seconds, it'll self-destruct, or just something, and see if you have a higher click-through rate, if more people are driven from that type of subject line, and then here's how, I can put, and the beauty of the brewing industry is that there's so much uniqueness on a brewery by brewery basis. And so language, terminology, and sort of attitude for each of your breweries is going to be different than someone else's. So just play into that, use something that people are going to expect when they're with you physically, if they heard you scream it, and now put that in your subject line.
Tom just added a question in here. I'm going to address it now instead of waiting. He brought up the file size and how large animated GIFs are, or really photography for that matter. Yes, absolutely, Tom. Be careful of how large the images are that you're using, whether it's an animated GIF file or just a regular JPEG file. If it's too large, first of all, your email system may not even let you, it might prevent you from even sending it out if it recognizes that it's too big of a file. But even if it does get through and it's, it's outbound and it's on the receiving end, you definitely can get caught in spam filters if they think that it's something that's too large, and especially Google, which is pretty tight and secure. It just won't even arrive successfully. But even if it does arrive successfully, even after that, it certainly will have a longer load time with rendering those images. So 100%, you're right. Make sure that you've compressed them. You still want it to be able to be seen, especially in animated GIFs, or else it'll just be a pixelated mess. But definitely be mindful of how large that image size is within the email itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it'd be a question of, especially when you're talking about videos that you want to utilize, that what part is going to be the most, the most driving part. So if we're talking about trying to push people to the site, if you've got a 30-second video, how can I move this into 5, 8, 10 seconds?
Yeah, the online tools that convert short videos to GIFs should leave you with an end result of a file size that's more than usable and compressed enough that should be perfect for you. And if you're compressing images, I usually use the same rule of thumb as putting it on a website. I usually stick around 500K or less. Anything above 1 meg is absolutely dangerous zone. I stay away from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to jump into the next one?
Yeah.
So after emails, we always kind of go hand in hand, and we feel that email is complemented really well with social media. We could probably sit here and talk for 2 hours on social media. I'm sure you guys could too, because it's such a large concept, and it's obviously very, sometimes even the single most important tactic for some of the breweries. But we each have kind of takeaways that we like to emphasize when we talk social media. And I'm going to reiterate the point that I said when I first started, and it's don't bite off more than you can chew. It continues to be a very saturated space. And a lot of the newer tools, Snapchat and TikTok in particular, they consume a lot of time, attention, and creativity. You can absolutely get consumed. You can have a full-time staff member just devote themselves to Snapchat and TikTok because they can take so much time away from everything else, because it requires so much time. So my recommendation when it comes to social media is to be consistent, have high-quality content to stand out from the masses, but don't bite off more than you can chew. If you think that your audience is primarily, focused on Facebook and Instagram, don't get attracted by TikTok and how cool it is, or even Snapchat. Stay within Facebook and Instagram. Let your buyers and let your audience dictate where you should be. Don't be on a platform just because your little sister's on it, okay? You have to make sure that you're giving the time and attention to the channels that make the most sense for your audience. And respect your time, because you got to make sure that the content is high quality. And if you're spreading yourself too thin and you're just throwing the same post up there across 8 different channels, and it's just a quick chat or a quick photo that you put together in 5 seconds, then don't do it. Put your time and attention into just a couple platforms that you can afford to put it into.
Yeah, and we'll see sometimes as like a perfect example of people who are just trying to get everything on everything, where they'll put in like their description on an Instagram post a link. A little bit, we haven't seen any click through, and it's like it doesn't work like that. It's just not. And so, like, to that point, it's one of those things where if you're saying come December 1st, or the week of Thanksgiving, and you're trying to prep for Black Friday, and you're like, let's join this platform and really try and showcase this, it's probably too late. So put that energy into ones that you have. If you started building a following, and utilize those those followers and contacts and like personality that you've already sort of generated. But that's where, again, it goes back to like saying, and now we're talking about from a social media standpoint, what is the supportive plan that goes along with the rest of the stuff that we really put together? Because if you have the same exact, almost templatized, like just same exact thing happening daily, people are just going to become sort of deaf to it. Pretty quickly. And so even if it's the same, like this is a beautiful table that we have in front of us here, but if I have a picture with this on it and it says shop now with a bit.ly link, and then tomorrow it's a hat, and the next day it's a a hoodie and that kind of stuff, it's not going to stop me. I'm gonna scroll by it. It's not going to stop me. So the question is, how do you stop? How do you get it to stop? And that's, again, it goes back to that uniqueness. There's probably something that people know you for, love you for, like you for, that is going to make them stop. And you can tie it into your merchandise.
And I would much rather see, a stellar photo, an amazing video, and you only put out, one every 2 weeks than try to have something that's completely lackluster or really crappy every day, because they're going to be desensitized or tone deaf to it. They're just going to move beyond it. They could even block you or stop the ad from showing up if you're putting boosted dollars behind it, and that's the last thing you want. So save that time and be creative with what that content is, and make it worth your while and make it worth their while when you're putting something together.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into loyalty so that we have enough time for questions and answers. So loyalty is a great way to bring repeat customers back. And the best thing about loyalty is you can do it through a third-party app. There's applications out there that allow you to check in or to scan the transactions and build up a reward system inside of that. But a lot of the e-commerce systems allow for loyalty built right in, and that's the best way to do it, because you can tie it to your coupons and your promos and your discounts, and it's all built within the store itself, so it's all in one place, which makes it ultimately easier to manage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I like loyalty a lot. I like it both from this digital sense, like Tom just talked about. I also like it from how me as a consumer, as a fan, it's like, I'm a part of this loyalty, rewards, this membership, whatever it may be. And so a lot of it is saying, okay, do I have something in place right now? Like maybe you have, a mug club or something internally. And so the question is, how do I digitize that? How do I make that something that can be used digitally, or also how can I make it where it's a gift? Because right now the big thing is people are missing experiences. There was a blip for a few months where they were able to get back outside. Now we're probably getting cold, they're going back inside, and so people are going to miss the opportunity to visit you the way they would. So I would love that as a gift. So how do you create loyalty opportunities as something that's tangible or physical? And so it's looking at programs you might have in place, or how someone can kind of start that process for someone else, but also benefit in the meantime.
I love exclusivity when it comes to loyalty, because if you're able to only offer something to your loyal members or subscribers or people that have purchased in the past, and they become walking billboards for you, and they have the coolest shirts, hoodie, sweatshirt, hat that nobody else even has the opportunity to buy because they're a loyal member and they're one of your biggest brand ambassadors, that's going to go a long way, and that's going to really drive more people into the system to carry out transactions or join your loyalty program.
Yeah, and that's why that's actually a perfect kind of segue to our last point of continuing putting that excitement and that that merchandise and that idea and your brand in front of people. And that's when we get into remarketing. And so, we laugh and we kind of say that process of how are they in my head? I just was on this website and now I'm seeing something as I, go on a different website or through Facebook or whatever it is. Well, that's remarketing. And as great as it is to kind of think that it's just, they're out there reading your thoughts, you're doing activities that are trackable and now actionable. And so let's say someone was on a given product and on your site, and didn't complete that action. You want to keep showing them that product until, it's something that they purchase, or they just showed interest generally in your shop, in your online presence. So kind of keep showing it to them. Retail in e-commerce is such a visual medium. So show them the items. You can say t-shirt, and I'll say, okay, important, I wear at least one a day. But if you show me one, I might say that's the one that I want, if I get through these. That's the one that I want. And so that's how you kind of dig in and benefit from utilizing the sort of the AI that's out there that Google has.
Facebook has really popularized remarketing, because for years it was done through third-party advertising platforms, Google being one of them. But even the way that you would set it up inside of Google wasn't extremely straightforward or intuitive. In Facebook, because a lot of small and medium-sized companies set up their own Facebook ad account, Facebook, I think, has done a relatively good job of walking you through the steps of installing that pixel and implementing that pixel on the back end of your website, which then enables you to set up remarketing. And I think the layout is also pretty intuitive, where you can identify what pages the the population is visiting in order to send them certain ads, which it might be the shopping cart page where they abandon the shopping cart and then you're going to bring them back to finish that transaction. That's usually the most popular example that people use with remarketing, or just any page on the site and you're trying to bring them back if they don't carry out a transaction. But one that I think often gets forgotten about is cross-selling. So if they buy a hat, bring them back on the site for related products or other products they might be interested in, especially during the holiday season, because they might have bought it for themselves or in this time period, bring them back during November, December to buy gift items for their friends, family, significant others, whoever it is.
Yeah, no, and again, and that's why everything kind of feeds back up to all these things can be really positive, really successful tools for you and approaches, but it all is going to kind of hinge at one point, which is taking that time now, if you haven't already, and mapping it out. And really, and take it from me, having both done it and not done it. It's a huge benefit if it's just one less thing, because as well as anybody, once a day can take you in any direction. So if it's just one less thing to have to focus on later, you can really map it out now. And there's just such a still sometimes underappreciated opportunity when it comes to online selling. We were saying it earlier, it's something that we look next week on, next Monday and Tuesday is Amazon Prime Day. Come Wednesday, a week from today, or next Thursday, look at the numbers just from people who were doing online shopping through Amazon, and through the stuff that they have. And it just kind of gives you a taste of exactly, how many people are looking online when it comes to shopping. And so you can definitely take advantage of these days. It's just so built in, it's so automated, where people say, Cyber Monday, it has to be today. It's assumed across the board that there's going to be something they can benefit from on Cyber Monday. And so if you kind of map yourself to align with that, you'll be in a good shape for it.
So again, two biggest takeaways, Devon's: be proactive and build that plan, because you're never going to be able to think sanely in the midst of the holiday season with everything else that's on your plate. So map out the plan now, so that way you have what you want to accomplish, you have what you want to say, you have those coupons and those discounts identified, and the platforms that you're going to use in order to carry it out. And my biggest takeaway, don't bite off more than you can chew. Identify the tactics that make the most sense for you and for your audience, and kind of put everything else to the side, so that way you can execute those to the best of your ability. And for me, I know content is usually the biggest time suck, and that's the most worrisome thing for most of the business that we deal with, especially the brewing industry. And I would even say, I don't even care if you're flying by the seat of your pants when it comes to the filler content, but certainly don't do it when it comes to the mainstay content, the most important content, which is going to be what is your coupons, your discounts, and really what's going to be the biggest drivers of e-commerce interactions and activity on your site. So at minimum, set that inside of your program, and if anything, and then you can kind of fill in the content of your everyday type of normal material after that. But make sure that stuff exists within your content program or your plan.
So I don't know if there's any other questions. If there is, please toss them in, jump in, and we're happy to answer them. I will say in these last couple of minutes, we did create a sort of a one-page reference. We rolled off a couple of things. And so if you want to kind of reference back to it and say, okay, I want to start, we'll merge the two together. I want to start creating that plan, but I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. It'll give you a reference of everything we sort of talked about today, and you can see what fits and what makes sense for you. So I'll be jumping into the Facebook group as soon as we wrap here, and I will share that, and hopefully it's a beneficial tool for you. And then obviously we're always available if anyone ever has any questions.
So we'll hang out for a few minutes here. If you have any questions, jump into the Facebook live stream. I got it in front of my computer. I wasn't I wasn't distracted during this and watching videos on YouTube or whatever. I was checking to see if anybody was submitting questions. But
he's a big TikTok guy, so just as a content creator, I can't miss out on
it. Shoot us any questions you have, and we'll answer them while I finish this Oktoberfest from Frankfurt, New York.
Exactly.
I submitted them. my review for like glasses, and I did a video. So I was trying to get the badge for the video. You did 3 videos, so I should have my video production badge coming in because I've done 3.
You're a good old guide.
It's so crazy how some of them have so many views. But then other ones, I think it's all depending on like how many, obviously how many people are searching for it, but also how many other ones are there. Because if you're the guide, you're kind of like going to the top.
I'll take a picture and say, oh, this is going to be a lot.
Did you get pictures of all these?
I took one out in Cass.
Okay.
Well, awesome. I might wrap us up, but please, we'll both be paying attention throughout all the different areas of the stream. So if you watch this live and have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll answer directly. And cheers to good beer. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.